Hey there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome to the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel. This is sneak peek day 2 of our upcoming July release. It hits the shop on July 17th. So today I'm going to show you some more stamps and dies from our latest release, but something new, and that is masks and coloring stencils. I'm so excited. So these new products are releasing with this stamp set called Candy Jar. Here's the coordinating die set, and then here is that new product, the masks. This is a reusable product, thinner than a stencil, that's going to eliminate fussy cutting for you. And then we have our coloring stencils. So let's get an up close look at these. There is the 4x8 stamp set called Candy Jar and its coordinating die set. You can see there's a ton of pieces of candy you can put in that jar. Here is the product, reusable Mylar Masks for Candy Jar and the coloring stencils. So these Mylar masks coordinate with this stamp set perfectly. They are thinner than a stencil, so you can easily use them to actually mask. It's not the stencil material that you're used to. You can put reusable adhesive on the back, stick this down, make your little scene, and use it again. Now, when you're ready to color up your cute candy and your jar, we have stencils for that with etched lines, so it's very easy to line up, get a ink blended look, get a gradient effect, get different colors. It is so fun. I could not stop playing with this. I colored every single piece of candy in there with that stencil. So I'm going to show you how these all work together. First, let's look at all the images stamped from this set, just in black ink on white paper. You can see they are darling. I especially love the little bear. I love a gummy bear for cuteness. I don't know about eating them, but I think it's really cute for this set. So here's those Mylar masks. So you can snip these apart with your scissors, but I actually cut part of the base and I didn't want to do that. So I found it much easier for me to just pull them apart at those little tabs. This is going to keep everything neat and organized for you in transit and make sure that you don't lose any of those little pieces that you're going to want to save. So you can see when you lay this onto your stamped image, it's going to fit just inside that black line. That's going to make sure when you do masking, you don't have a white halo around your image, which I absolutely love. It's so clever. So I put some temporary adhesive on the back of this. I'm laying it down over that beautiful glass jar so that I can do some inking around this. Now, if you're one that likes to make one layer cards and make little scenes, these masks are going to be so much fun. So I decided to just add some color around the jar. I'm using some Kitsch Flamingo ink and just giving this kind of a pink glow around the outside so you can really see how this works and how well they mask, that when you do this, you're not going to get a white halo. And that's because a little bit of that black line of the stamped image shows. And if it was completely covered, you would get a little bit of a white edge around your ink blending. But that's not what's going to happen with these masks. Like I said, they are thinner than a stencil, which makes this job much easier, but thick enough that you can save these and reuse them time and time again. It's so clever. So we've got the pink all the way around. Let's do the reveal, and you can see that I'm not going to have any white glow around this. Isn't that fun? So cool. Okay, the next thing that we have are the coloring stencils. So this is going to allow you to put little shine mark on your glass jar. Now, if this particular stamp set looks familiar to you, then you have been familiar with Trinity Stamps for quite some time. This set we've brought back from the vault after requests from a lot of people at Scrapbook Expo and customers, and we just thought it was time to give it a refresh. The images have been slightly updated, and I love this jar. I think the jar might have been slightly resized as well. I'm not sure, but it's been refreshed for this release, and I love how I can just add a little shine to that glass. Isn't that great? Okay, now let's look at these stencils for coloring the candy. So for some of these, you're going to have multiple spots to stencil this. Like this particular sucker that's swirled, you're going to have the possibility to ink this up twice for a two-toned look. So I already have the pink and the blue out, so those are the colors I chose to use for my candy. So I am inking up the first little swirl with that same Kitsch Flamingo, and then I will have one color. And you could leave it like this so that it could be pink and white. However, there is another part of the stencil that you can use and make this two-toned. There's also a stencil opening for the stick of the sucker or lollipop, but I chose to leave mine white, so you won't see me do that part. I am using some paper-like tape or post-it-like tape when doing this because if I get ink on it, I'm not going to be able to move that ink off of the tape onto my project. If you use tape that's a little bit slickery of a surface, then sometimes you can move that ink off and get a different color when you don't want to. So that's what I'm using here, and it worked out perfectly. And so you're going to see how cool it is to get this two-toned look, and it's a soft kind of airbrush look that's much different than if you were to color this with just alcohol markers. So here you can see all of my images. I did some where the shading was darker in some spots, lighter in others. I did ink blending to make purple. I did some shading. I did some ombre looks. So what fun those coloring stencils are. Okay, so here you can see all of the pieces die cut out with the coordinating dies, and there's a few more things I want to show you about this coordinating die set. So there is a die to cut out the jar if you want your jar cut out. It cuts it out with that usual white border all the way around that you're used to from your dies. There's a second die in this set that looks like it's two pieces, but you want to leave these hooked together. This is going to give you a frame so you can turn this into a shaker, which I love shakers, so I am tickled to death about this feature from this set. So you can stamp this and die cut it out. Also, I feel like these dies work great if you wanted to do a standalone candy jar that's not stamped. It's just die cut. Doesn't that look amazing? And you could use your stencils to add some shading to those pieces. There's also some extra dies you might notice in your die set. They're a little bit smaller than the ones that cut out the candy corn, the jelly bean, the gumdrop, and those are so you can die cut solid pieces if you want that pure die cut look. Imagine doing the tiny circles in lots of different colors to make gumballs and filling up this jar. So many fun things that you can do with this, and you can custom color these for different holidays. I just can't wait to play with this even more. So here's my candy jar with just gummy bears in it, and I stenciled them so they were a little bit shaded on one side, and I love the look. I even did the sucker, just a really light wash of color over that, and wow, I'm in love with that set already. Okay, let's move on to our next stamp set, which is called Hoot HootHooray. It's got a coordinating die set as well as those reusable Mylar masks, so you can create little scenes with these cute owls. There's 3 different owls in this set, and it is thought of for birthday, but there are things included in this that you can use for plenty of other occasions. The thing I want you to know about this set of Mylar masks is that you're actually getting 2 sets. There was enough space in the packaging that we could include 2 sets of the masks. So I think that's really fun. Here's all the stamped images from this set. You've got your 3 owls, and look at all the different hats you have. Birthday hats and even a graduation hat. We have a banner, a cupcake, a balloon, a present, a cupcake on a plate. So much fun. And here are the sentiments. They're very punny because you know we love our puns here at Trinity Stamps. So I'll be there for you. Every little thing will be all right. Hoot hoot hooray. Look who's turning. Look who's having. All I need. Awesome. And you can see how we have the little words there so you can build your own sentiment. Customize it, and then when you die cut these out with the bubble cut dies, you can move them around and space them how you want. All right, here is that Mylar mask with the owl. I then took another stencil and stenciled over the top of this. So he looks like he's in front of the clouds and the clouds are behind him, and he is not die cut out, which I think is so fun. So there he is, just another fun way you can use those Mylar masks. Okay, one more thing about this die set that I want you to know is that when you die cut out your hats, you're going to have this like white space at the bottom. These hats do not have a line at the bottom closing them off. That's so you can stick them on to the owl and it looks like it's actually sitting on the head, and that little extra white space allows you room for adhesive. You can see this hat here is stamped directly on its head, and because there's no bottom line on that hat, it fits perfectly. All right, here's a completed card with the owl. I think he is so cute as a little graduation card. I love it. So there is the Hoot Hoot Hooray, which is the name of this set. Such a cute sentiment that can go for lots of different occasions. So there's one card with it. Now we're going to move on to new Simply Sentimental Stampin' Die sets. We have Simply Sentimental Sweet, and we have one more. I'll show you right after this. Okay, this is a 4x8 set, and not only are you getting the word sweet in here, but you're getting buildable words. So you can build onto this and make it say sweetie, sweeter, sweetest. Isn't that fun? And if you are familiar with Simply Sentimental, you might notice a little something about this set, and that is that all the supporting sentiments in this set have a new refreshed font. I love this font, soft and delicate. All right, so here you can see the die set, which is a standalone die set. You can die cut out all of these words and use them by themselves, but you can also coordinate this with the sub-sentiments. And the shadow layers for this actually cut out the stamped sentiments. So speaking of stamped sentiments, I wanted you to see how you can build all of these words. So sweet becomes sweetest, or sweeter, or sweetie, and we've got a variety of those for each of the words in this set. And don't you just love how it has a variety of style of font with those big words? All right, so this is that new font I was telling you about. Look at it all stamped out. Isn't it fun? I love the refresh on this. So good, right? And you can see all the fun sentiments that you can build up with the word sweet, like sweet pea. Isn't that cute? Sweeter than candy. Here's a die cut word sweet. This is a new font for the larger words in this set. I wanted you to see it. I think it's so precious. Isn't that really cute? All right, our next one is Simply Sentimental Special, and there's the coordinating die set. You're getting a lot of words in this one, a lot of those larger words. Also, at the bottom are the typical fonts we put in every Simply Sentimental, the bottom two in that left corner. But the one that is the second one in, we've shrunk it down a little bit. Usually that is much larger, and I like that it's a little bit smaller with this long word. So you've got extra special in there, wishing you a special birthday, special occasion, special delivery, special achievement, special greetings, so many fun things, a special friend. I love this. I keep getting blown away by all the new Simply Sentimentals. If you're not familiar with them, you've got to go check them out on the website because we have just about everything under the sun. So here they are all stamped out. You can see we've got a couple different fonts in this one than we had before. And there's the traditional font in the sub-sentiments that we've always had, that typewriter-like font. So you can see the difference between that and what's in Simply Sentimental Sweet. So both have something to love about them, and I think both are going to be must-have additions for anybody's stamp room. So there's my Simply Sentimental Special die cut out. Now we're going to look at some stand-alone dies new to this release. They are birthday themed, and the first one is You Take the Cake. I guess this doesn't have to be birthday, but there is a candle in this die set. And do you know what we like to do with candles here at Trinity Stamps? I bet you do know. But let's talk about the die set a little bit more. You've got a layered cake that is just one slice. You've got whipped cream you can put on top and a birthday candle that looks like it's sitting on the cake. You've got a arrow there, and that has to do with the sentiments. We have happy birthday, but then we also have the word blow it out. And then you can also do you take the cake. So what we like to do with our candles here at Trinity Stamps is light them up with the candlelight from Pear Blossom Press. And this candle and this die set was designed to work with that candle light, which you light up and you can blow out. We actually have a video tutorial on that if you are not familiar with it, and I will link that in the description box below for you. Okay, so this is the cake pieces die cut out, and here I have colored them up and turned them into a card that you can blow out. Isn't that fun? With that blow it out word and the arrow. So cool. Okay, our next die set and coordinating stencil is called Cut the Cake. Now this one is really unique in that it can work like 3 or 4 different ways. So here's this Cut the Cake set. It's got a little candle with it and a cherry on top. It's got a layering piece that you can put the cake pieces on, but also you can make a window into your card. So the back shows you there in the pink, that's the window into your card panel. You also have a solid cake piece that you can layer the cut pieces on, and then you have the stencil, which you can stencil in the cake if you make a window into your card. You can stencil a background for your window into your card. I'm going to show you a couple different ways in this video how I used it, just so you can really get a feel for it. But if you take both of these dies and you die cut them together at one time, you're going to get a cake frame, let's call it, that looks just like this. So that is really fun, and you can put some paper behind it or inlay die cut pieces that you've cut from pattern paper. If you cut just the solid piece, you're going to get this right here. But you also have the fallout pieces, maybe from the previous die cut, that you could layer on here. You could color these up however you want, or die cut them from colored paper. You could use the stencil and create a cake that way. And there's even the cake stand. So that's another way you could do it. Now, you can also take this die by itself and die cut it from a panel and create a window into your card. Now, if you want the cake to be a different color, then you're going to pull out your stencil and you're going to color in just the cake part. Is that fun? I absolutely love it. There's even a stencil for a candle and a little shine mark. Again, this would be another great piece that you could use with the Pear Blossom Press Candlelight. All right, here's a card I made, turning it into a shaker, because if I can make a window, then I am gonna make a shaker. So I have done some die cutting there for the candle as well, and then added the Simply Sentimental Sweet to my card, wishing you a sweet birthday. Isn't that cute? Oh my goodness, I love this die set. I have one more card I'll show you at the end of this video so you can see another way to use that set. Next up, we have our Sunday Swirl alphabet die set. So we've taken one of our favorite fonts and we've turned it into an alphabet die that is cursive-y, and you can build these letters and put them side by side and make your own custom sentiments. They are thin, and I like to put our rip and stick sheets on the back of these to turn them into little stickers, and then you can just stick them down right where you want them. Isn't that a fun and fresh font? Yeah, okay, so now let's take a look at this die cut out. I die cut the word, "Hey girlfriend." It happens to go with some things from our sneak peek day 1 video. I'm going to show that to you right here, where I made a little grill card and the words go on the front, "Hey girlfriend." Isn't that fun? Okay. This is the part I've been waiting for. This is our brand new tool, the Shading Sidekick. You may have got a few sneak peeks of this already. I've been sharing it in some live videos. I got to share it at Creativation, and we are finally bringing it to you for purchase with this release. Remember, this release comes out on July 17th. So if you're watching this on the day it comes out, that's only tomorrow. And so you can start getting your Shading Sidekick. It's got that fluffy, rounded brush. It's soft and delicate. So you can easily do ink blending. You can easily do shading in those smaller areas, which I absolutely love. The soft bristles are going to help you not get a harsh line. So let's bring back that cut the cake stencil and do some blending, do some inking, do some shading. So I'm going to do a cake that is just stenciled, so you can really get the feel of the Shading Sidekick. And I love this pink on here, but what's really fun, besides just stenciling one color, is to do a little bit of shading, which, by the way, you know, this is the Shading Sidekick, so isn't that what it's meant to do? So I'm going to bring in a darker color of pink. I think this is picked raspberry. And I'm going to just add a little there at the top of the cake. So it's going to shade the top of the frosting and leave the bottom drippy parts a little lighter in color, which is how I feel it would look in real life, and kind of make it look more shiny. So let's do the same thing with the second layer of the cake, and I'm using dried marigold. So a light orange color, that's going to allow me to come in and bring a darker orange color and shade the top just like I did before. Now what my plan is for my shading Sidekick brushes is to have one for each color. So I'm going to have one for all my oranges, one for all my pinks, etc. And I am going to keep the brushes that I use for distress ink or dye-based inks separate from brushes that I use for oxide inks. And that way they're fresh and ready to go. All right, so my third layer of my cake, I am going to do yellow. I have some gathered straw. This actually ended up being a little bit more golden than I was hoping for besides bright yellow. I went over the whole entire thing when I was done with some squeezed lemonade just to brighten it up a little bit. I don't know that you can actually tell, but I'm going to let you know that just in case it looks a little different when you see the finished results. So I'm darkening this up with some fossilized amber, making the top just a little bit darker, adding in that shadow, which is really easy to do with this small brush that's, like I said, nice and fluffy. It's nice and soft. All right, for the cake stand, I'm using some cracked pistachio. This makes me feel like, I don't even know if it's called this, but I want to call it milk glass, like an antique cake plate that, you know, that has like those little nubbins on them, like little bump outs. I think this cake plate is so cute and I really wish I had one. So that's what I decided to do for my cake plate, and I am keeping it darker at the edges and lighter in the center just to give it a little bit more interest, which you can easily do when you're stenciling. You can easily do when you have the right tool, and this soft brush is allowing me to do that very smoothly. So there's my cake. It's coming together, but we need the actual cake part. So you're just going to rotate the stencil, and now you're able to do the cake. So for this cake, I'm going to keep it darker at the edges and lighter in the middle, helping it look a little bit more rounded. So I'm only going to use one color of ink this time because you can kind of control this when you're stenciling, and that is to keep your ink dark at the edge, and as your brush is running out of ink, you move towards the center of the cake. So there it is. When I was finished with just the stenciling part, I did go in and add a candle with the stripes, and then I added the flame, which is two-toned, and then without adding any ink to my brush, I was able to go in and add those shine marks with just a really light hand and keep it nice and soft. So there's my cake, but I really went to town with this. And I added some confetti. I added some texture to my cake with just some Copic markers, and the sprinkles on my cake are done with Sharpie paint markers, and I added wishing you a special birthday from the Simply Sentimental special as well. So many fun things in this release. I hope that you got to see sneak peek day one already that has all of our circle add-ons like that grill, the great grill I showed you that said, "Hey girlfriend" on it. There's also emojis, which, by the way, did you know that I think it's National or World Emoji Day is coming up. It might be June 18th, if I remember right, but we have new emojis that are so darn cute. So make sure you check out that video if you haven't. And remember, this release goes live tomorrow on July 17th, and we're also going to have some hops for you for lots of inspiration from our design team on Instagram and YouTube also. I'll see you then. Happy stamping. Bye.